What's up, everybody? It's Brandon Karen here, and today I want to continue our chat on the BRRRR strategy and take a deeper dive into exactly what you look for when renting it, right? So just to remind you guys, the BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And last time we covered, buying a BRRRR, renovating a BRRRR, and today we're going to talk about renting a BRRRR, right? Because that's when you actually start making money. You put a renter in there and you start cash flowing. Jumping into this, it's all about like finding a great renter for the property. And the way that's going to work is you're going to find a renter through different avenues. You could do apartments.com. You can use a realtor, and have them put it on the MLS. You can do Facebook Marketplace. All these different things that you could find renters, right? And let's say, you find a renter, and I'm just going through the process right now because I think it's important to understand exactly how the rental process works before jumping into how to determine and find the best renter suited for your BRRRR, right? So, first of all, your renter is going to come in through one of those avenues. So, most likely it's going to be online. Most people are finding homes online, places to rent, or buying homes online. So that's like going to be your probably the most likely. The second source is generally like word of mouth. So you might have friends or family or people that know, like, and trust that they're like, hey, my buddy has a place coming on the market. It's awesome. It looks amazing. Like, would love for you guys to rent it, right? So essentially, once that's done, you're going to ask for what's called a rental application. Now, a rental application takes into account like what their income is, how many bills they have, their debt to income ratio, their if they've had any delinquencies in the past. So it shows their credit report, their statements. They have to submit paychecks to the property management company or the system that you're using to run these applications, right? So they're asking for pay stubs. They're asking for asking them permission to run their credit, asking them for any sort of thing, and it's also doing a background check because you want to make sure that you're not really having people in your property that's going to cause a lot of issues or really shouldn't be there, kind of thing. So without having knowledge of this, like it's important to know that like there are a lot of laws depending on the state where you could actually see those credit reports or see information on the property from those potential renters, right? So you want to make sure that when you do this, you're following all your guidelines and all your laws. So I would definitely consult with an attorney or consult with your realtor to talk about, hey, what is the best option here? How can I protect myself and still get a great tenant? So once you find an applicant that you like and your realtor is like, hey, look, their credit application looks great, their income is phenomenal, they've had a good rental history, they have stable jobs, kind of thing, you can say, hey, look, all right, well, let's run with this one, right? Let's go with them. So there's some terms that are going to be needed to be determined by you and them, right? Look, so how long they want to rent it for, how much they want to rent it for, do they want any special requirements in the property? Do they want you to cut the grass? Do they want to cut the grass? Are utilities included? Are they not included? Depending on the type of property. So once you figure out those terms, you're going to sign what's called a lease agreement, right? So when you sign those lease agreement, it's holding you and the tenant liable to each other. There's duties as a landlord that you need to fulfill to those tenants, right? You want to make sure that the property is in good shape and at a minimum it's structurally sound. It has the possibility of having running water. There's no infestation, that kind of stuff, right? Because in that lease agreement, it's going to give the tenant potential, rights to terminate those leases, right? Based on most of the time you not taking care of the property, right? So you want to make sure that the tenant is also like on board with what you're going to do and what your expectation is for the property, right? So if you're like, hey, look, in my rent I include cleaning the property every 2 weeks, like I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that, and they have to be okay with that because they have to let them in, that kind of thing, right? So once you sign that lease agreement, what you're going to do is essentially they're going to move in, you'll collect what's called a security deposit beforehand and the first month's rent before they move in, right? So typically in my area, security deposit is about 1 month's rent to 2 months rent, depending on the type of property and the situation. So, like you can require 1 month's rent or 2 month rent. If you want a super qualified tenant, you can require 2 months rent, because then, you have that in there that, if they mess up anything, like you're able to take that money later on and use it for the repairs on the property after submitting a bill to them, right? So once you take that security deposit, you sign the lease, you execute it, they move in, you're good to go. Now, it's really simple. It's pretty much like that. One of the things too is right before they move in, you're going to want to make sure you send them utility information and have them transfer utilities in their name and that kind of stuff, right? If they are going to be taking care of utilities. If it's a condo, utilities might be included, so that's something we want to disclose and make sure that they understand that as well. Now, after they move in, what's going to happen is like you're going to want a tenant that is really cool about you checking in on a property, because the one thing that you haven't done yet that we need to get to is the refinance, right? And during that refinance process, you're going to have an appraiser needing to come to the property. So the last time we did this, we actually paid for the house to be clean before the appraiser came, because I wanted to make sure that the house was like super nice before the appraiser showed up, take pictures, and was able to do his thing, right? So those are just like one of the tips and tricks like you can use to like make sure that your property values, in the cash out refinance, is you're getting maximum, value for your property. So let's talk about like when you should figure out, when you need to start probably talking about when to put the property on the market for rent, right? So what I like to do is when the house is almost like close to when you hit that, like during construction, right? You're gonna deal with the dirty stuff in the beginning, right? So dirty stuff in the beginning, you want to like make sure you're over that and you're starting to install new stuff before you talk about putting the property on the market. And you can do that with the realtor. You can get it on the market and say pictures coming soon. You can do Facebook. What I would do is probably do social media and word of mouth first before putting it on the market, so it doesn't accrue days on market with your realtor. And one of the things that, like I like to do that because then maybe I could rent the property before, right? Or maybe someone else that I know might want to rent the property. Then I don't have to put it on the market. I don't need to take pictures. I don't need to, stage it or do whatever I need to do in order to get it rented, right? So that's when I recommend is like when you're doing the construction process and you're over the hump of like dealing with the old stuff and you're starting to install new things. And that's going to give the renter a little more understanding of what you're putting into the property, and you're going to kind of tell if they're going to take care of this property or not, right? Because they're going to be very appreciative. They're going to walk in and be like, wow, like you're putting in hardwood floors. That's awesome. Like, thank you so much. Or, wow, like this is granite countertops or quartz countertops, whatever it is, right? They're going to be super happy and super excited that you're doing this, right? So you can have a good judge of character when someone walks into your property and how they react, and if they're very appreciative or if they're not, right? The next thing is the tenant screening, right? So we talked about that a little bit ago. However, again, like follow the laws in your area, because like every state is different, right? So you want to make sure that you're following these laws and whatnot. And the tenant screening process, like I recommend using a property manager to hire to run the application, and have them like pay the application fee to the property management company, which the tenant is responsible for. And typically in my area, it's about $55, $45 to $55. And the property manager is going to tell you whether or not in their experience, if this tenant seems like a good option, right? Because they're dealing with hundreds and thousands of tenants because they manage so many properties. So they can kind of look at an application and tell you whether or not, hey, I would go with this one or maybe not so much kind of thing, right? So that's when, that's tenant screening. Then when you should advertise. So again, going back to our example of like you putting the word out on social media or, friends and family, word of mouth kind of thing, I recommend after that's done and your property is ready to go, it's pretty much you're almost through the final cleaning, then I would talk to your realtor to get photos done and put it on the market. So one of the things that we did too with our properties is we took a Matterport tour. We had a 3D guy come out and do a Matterport tour. And what they do is like they go through, scan the house. So that does two things, right? One, I'm going to give it to the appraiser when he comes out and look at the property. Two, for any insurance issues that may come up, you want to have like some sort of example of exactly what the property was and when you turned it over, right? So it's just good. It's just good like kind of management of your portfolio and your stuff and having an understanding, and then that way you can use the same thing like, you know, for other projects. Maybe you want to partner with other people, so you can use that and say, hey, this is what I've done, this is the example, this is a BRRRR that we did, or whatever the situation might be. And then you can also use that Matterport to, you know, for out of town, you know, tenants that might be looking in the area, and have them decide if they want to move here, right? Because it's like giving them a 3D immersion experience into exactly how it would be. So there you have it. That's that. So just to recap, again, tenants are generally going to come from two places: word of mouth, social media, and your realtor. The next thing is like you're going to screen them. They're going to go through a process. I recommend a property manager doing during the screening process, and they'll tell you exactly who to go with, or you know, if they see like this person's a good fit. Get a Matterport tour of your property so that way you can maintain the records of it. And definitely, you know, you want to make sure that the tenant is on board with the appraiser coming back to do the cash out refinance, that they're okay with that. So set the expectations up front so that way they can know, you know, exactly like when you're coming by and that kind of thing. Because you also don't want to be super involved in their situation or up in their business or make them feel that kind of way, right? Because they might be feeling like you're overbearing on them. So you want to make sure that you give them the respect and also let them know well ahead of time that, you know, hey, I'll be coming by. And before you come by too, for the appraiser to meet the appraiser there, you're going to send a cleaner to clean the house. And honestly, like, I don't know who wouldn't be okay with you sending a cleaner to their house and cleaning it. So there you have it. That's the renting process of the BRRRR. It's pretty quick and straightforward. I'm Brandon LeCaren. Thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely hit the subscribe button below. I'd love to see you guys on my channel. Take care.